1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Here we go, sticking it in the ground for episode, where are we at, 76?
76. We missed giving episode 75 a shout out last week. That's kind of that's another milestone we hit.
We're shouting back to 75.
Yeah, last week we're ripping through it so well. We just 75. We're like 75.
We're gonna
right through.
We're just we get to 100. We'll have a party at 100.
Yeah, we had 75. We're like 75 of it. So that's pretty good though. 75. We're on 76. We're rocking right through City of Champions, man.
It is. It's I got my golf club. I got my Walter Hagen Woodshaft Golf Club. And we're ready to, and I got my Detroit City of Champions T-shirt.
Got the big logo.
Yeah, I just these are available for anyone. Chris, right?
Yeah, Chris,
yeah, you and Chris.
Me and Chris worked on it. Chris really had the original inspiration for it. I just kind of helped him.
So it's got a little bit of everything for the City of Champions. It's got a lion, it's got a tiger, it's got 3 stars, a 4th star for Joe Louis.
Yeah, and Chris is, Chris is like he knows
the wings for the Red Wings.
Chris is all about those coat of arms too, so it's like that's about as close to official.
Pretty
as you
cool.
Get.
It's and this is the big one. This is the larger logo.
Yeah, but Chris, when we were designing that coat of arms, he knows what he's doing with that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like he's not like this isn't just kind of like some kind of
this isn't just clip art.
Some random. Well, it's not just some random. I mean, it's got some clip art.
There's some meaning.
but no, that's what I mean. Like,
no, dude, it's totally clip art.
But I'm just saying, it's not like just some kind of cool. Like we just put this design together, like some randomly. Like there's actually
it follows some of the rules.
It follows all the rules. It follows all the rules of heraldry. Yeah.
All right.
Chris knows a lot about it.
It's a thing. So. And I just like the one little star has 30 points on it for the 30 championships, and the crown is some significance as well. And we keep on saying, we'll have Chris on and talk about it.
We'll do an entire show. We could do a whole show about it and just have Chris on too.
The other show I want to do, besides the one we're gonna get to today eventually, is we've had a lot of like cousins and nephews and daughters and granddaughters of people involved with the story reach out and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing the story, or I can't believe you actually are taking time with this part of the story or that part of the story, and that's pretty neat. And I want to kind of get all these people and talk to them all, and then put a it's tough to like say, okay, call us on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and but we can like kind of piece them together. And
maybe when
we
come back around, the barn, like when we start doing some of the player stories and stuff, we'll just ask some of the people that that we've met and see if they want to weigh in a little bit. Like Norma Smith, I'm friends with her on Facebook. I mean, she like. When we get back around, we talk about go back to the Red Wings at some point. Talk about Normie Smith. That's her dad.
I'm excited to do that. That's another show I want to do, and then another podcast entirely. Once we're done with this, once we get to the end of the City of Champions story.
I have to tell you too. I've been really before I forget the idea. I have Abby Goodfellow's granddaughter. On my Facebook friends too. Yeah.
And then we got to go do live shows from Portsmouth.
Yeah, that's I really want to do it.
There's
first
so
week
much.
of December. They're celebrating
so much to do.
The 90th anniversary of the Ironman game down in Portsmouth. They want us to come down and do a show down there. That's like I really want to do that. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah,
our buddy Will Malt calling us up, bringing us wants to come down.
I want to swing all of that, and I want to appreciate the people that are hanging out and watching the YouTube and watching on Facebook, and then they also listen to the audio podcast on all the podcast outlets. So wherever you're listening, be it a video rendition, a straight up audio rendition, take a time, and if you could leave a comment, that like helps immensely. All the algorithms out there in the ether world. Whatever.
Yeah, hit the share right now, hit the like button right now. Whatever you can do, it really helps.
All those things. So yeah, those are fun. So appreciate if you could do that. Do it. I appreciate it. And wearingfunny.com is where you can get the very cool shirts along with other.
Can you add a link on the description for those?
They're always in there.
Oh, is it in the description? Okay, cool. So the link's in the description.
The link's in the description.
Awesome. There you go.
It's right there for you. Cityofchampions.com is where you can get the books. just in time for the holiday season.
Or come visit me at the either 12 Oaks Mall or Partridge Creek in Clinton Township. The Inspire Marketplace. It's a Made in Michigan art store. There's all kinds of.
We're worldwide. We're national.
Yeah.
It's not everybody can slide on over to Partridge Creek.
Yeah.
So
12 Oaks Mall.
Or if they're driving in from
Oh yeah. Well, I get it. They don't
Missoula, Montana.
That's why I use the word. That's why I use the word or.
It's
not like mandatory. The website ships international, but or if you're in the Detroit area, stop down and see me at these two stores.
Absolutely. So Walter Hagen. We were talking about Walter Hagen.
Yeah, like we were talking about him last week, and
that's why I got my golf club.
Yeah, well, last week we had we were talking about his 1922 the exhibition tour with him and Joe Kirkwood, and how the invention of the golf tee. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I was thinking about this. It's kind of like the Sid Howe and Gordy Howe thing.
Yeah,
like back then.
Yeah.
The golf tee was like it was. What do you mean? There's a golf tee,
right?
You don't do that. You scoop dirt with your hand. A wet dirt, you ball it into a cone and you put it on the ground. And you hit the ball off that. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, that's how it's done.
and then it's like fast forward 90, however many years later, 80 years later, and it's like that idea is like oh my god, I can't believe they did that. It's like barbaric. So foreign to us, yeah. And then it's kind of like that with Gordy Howe and Sid Howe, where it's like, is Sid Howe related to when we were talking about Sid Howe, the question is Sid Howe related to Gordy? Back then they were like, is Gordy related to Sid?
Right.
Sid was he was the all-time goal scorer when he retired.
Yeah.
And so they're like, maybe the Red Wings found a new Howe. Like, I mean, like, that could be maybe as good as they'll never be as good as Sid. They'll never be as good as Sid.
Who knew?
Yeah. And then years later, the flip has happened where it's like Sid.
Sid, was he related
or was he any good? It's like, are you kidding me? He was amazing. He was like the best player. He was probably an amazing player.
One of the things that made Gordy strive for
to
fill those shoes.
We showed the picture at that time, at those shows where it was Gordy meeting Sid, young Gordy Howe meeting, basically Sid Howe on his way out the door.
Yeah.
So, anyways, where we're at today, last show we talked about the exhibition tour and how big that was, and then so this week, we're talking about really just the next couple of years. That was 1922. Right now is 1923. And really going into the show, I wasn't even sure what we were going to do today. I was kind of talking about this before the show.
I never know what we're going to do.
Well, I know you don't, but I was trying to give you a couple clues where we were going today. But I had no idea really going in today. And so I was just kind of like reading the next couple of chapters. I mean, I've read the book a couple of times, but I was just, I'm just kind of going through it and, just kind of the next thing. And, really the very next year, 1923, I'm reading this stuff and I'm like this, the next couple of years are just like, it's almost like we titled this episode the Roaring 20s.
Okay.
Hagen in the Roaring 20s, because like, at least for me, whenever I think of the Roaring 20s, I think of like Hollywood. I think of Hollywood, right? The Hollywood, like you have all like these actors and actresses. Yeah, exactly. The Great Gatsby types parties and all these movies like these old 20s movie stars and all, like Charlie Chaplin and them and all these guys that are that are just Errol Flynn. I think Errol Flynn was back in that. Was it Errol Flynn? Yeah. Well, these guys like Rudolph Valentino and these guys, like this is the Roaring 20s. Like I was thinking of the Hollywood, like the Flappers. And I think of like maybe a little bit of New York, with the speakeasies and stuff in the 20s. That's the kind of stuff I think about. I've always thought about the Roaring 20s. But today I had a totally different vision and a view of the 1920s, and it was through the eyes of Walter Hagen, because these couple of years we're going to dive into today, 1923 and 24, are like when you're done, when we're done today, like my goal today is to paint a picture of Hagen. And it wasn't really until like today and maybe even the last couple of days that it's dawned on me, like if you bring up the cover of the book that we've been using, citing so much of Hagen's own story, so the cover of the book, if you zoom in on it, I don't know if you can zoom in, but no, okay. On the left side, if you look close, if you can't see it, and right on the cover of his book, it says the book's called Walter Hagen's Story, the Walter Hagen story. And then next to it says, I never wanted to be a millionaire. I just wanted to live like one. So he never wanted to like necessarily accumulate wealth. Yeah. He just wanted to live the lifestyle of one. And as we've already kind of talked about before, he would basically he was basically living sort of paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
But the thing is, like, he would have some huge, big money pile come in, and he would live it up, and he would burn through that cash, and then he would like, oh my God, I got to go compete for that British Open. I got to win it. For his third attempt at the British Open,
got to go panhandle on Wall Street.
Yeah, he had to go to Wall Street, and he's like, thank God I knew like the great bear of Wall Street who would one day predict the short the stock market crash in 1929. Thank God I knew him, and I could just sit in his office for 10 days following every move he did and make enough money for me to live off of for a couple of years. And he even says in his book, he's like, I still had enough money from what I made from Jesse Livermore those 10 days. He even says it like in 23, 24. He's like, so that's what I mean. Like that's when I've looked at this book many times. In the cover, it's always been kind of like a quaint saying, but like that's on the cover of his book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never understood, like, why would he put that of all the things?
And
this episode today, I think we're going to be showing a little bit. I think we're going to go a great deal towards what that statement means and why he put that on the cover of his book.
Because it was very modest beginnings for sure.
Well, yeah, very modest. But like, but again, it's, he never wanted to be, he doesn't want to be this guy that's got $1 million in the bank and all this thing. No, he wants to be the guy that lives like a millionaire. Right. So that's what we're going to sort of talk about today is this incredible lifestyle that this guy has got. Okay. So we're going to begin with just a very basic fact. In 1923, Walter Hagen gets married to a woman named Edna. Okay. And I think you had that on the cover for today's episode. So it's, this is them on a ship. They're about to head out to the 1923. They're about to head to Europe for Hagen's attempt at the 1923 British Open.
Okay.
Which again, he would trying to win back-to-back opens in 20. So anyways, so this is him and Edna. So he gets married, and but that picture is actually a little bit ahead of where we're at this exact moment in 1923. Sure. But so anyways, Hagen there's in the 20s. There's what was called the Florida real estate boom.
Right.
Okay. It was in the early from like 1920 to 1926. It was right at the early of the 1920s. And what was happening was Florida was like this was the next big thing.
Yeah.
It was the next big thing. All these people that made all this money in the auto industry and all these people, they were going on to Florida and they were buying themselves entire areas to start their own cities
in Fort Myers.
Okay. You're familiar with
Henry Ford.
Yeah. You're familiar with it.
And Edison. Yeah. You go when because my mom is staying in North Fort Myers right now.
Yeah.
North Fort Myers, and that the Gulf is getting walloped by a hurricane. They're hunkered down. Everybody's so far so good, but it's cool to go down there and just see Edison's place and Henry and Firestone, and they all had places down there. So all these Detroit,
I didn't know that. You're educating me right now. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So Edison and Ford have homes next to each other down there, and they would hang here in Detroit, and then they would go down there.
Yeah.
And
in this first like sort of 5 years of the 20s, eventually it all kind of went bust. Mm-hmm. Like there was a lot of people that lost like everything. These multi-millionaires that lost a ton because they went too big. And so anyways, so Hagen gets invited down. He gets invited down by one guy, and what was his name? Elliot. His last name is Elliot. Anyways, he gets brought down there by this guy going, hey, there's all kinds of opportunity down here. I've got some opportunities of my own. I'm building one of these, like, it's not just like when you say gated community, that's one way to put it. Another way is to put like a gated city that they're building. Like that's what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
They're building like their own little city down there, anchored around some massive luxury property. That's like what they're doing. They're building golf courses. They're doing this. And so they're all building, they're carving up this whole, all these territories. So this guy, Elliot, invites him down because the big thing that's going down here is the St. Petersburg area is blowing up. And that's why he wants to bring him down. So anyway, so Hagen goes down there. He's like, okay, cool. He goes down there, and what's kind of funny is he takes this steam. They go on this yacht. Okay. Again, now we're starting to enter into Hagen's experience. Why I call this the Roaring '20s. Okay. So Hagen gets he's going down to Florida to be part of the real estate boom, to be part of this. And this is the first days of it, right? The early years of it. And so he goes down there, and the first thing he does, him and his wife, newly married, they get welcomed onto this yacht. Okay, to go out and travel around. They have a party on this yacht because welcome Walter down there. And so this Elliot, he asks him, hey, we're about to build this 4-mile bridge to connect Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg, right? We're about to build this bridge, which would end up called the Gandhi Bridge, which just they've torn it down and rebuilt it since. But at the time, they're about to build this bridge to connect these two cities, right? So anyways, this guy, Elliot, asked Walter, hey, I'm about to be I'm part in charge of helping establish this bridge, right? Where should we build this bridge? And Walter is knows nothing about anything to do with building bridges. He knows nothing about this area. So he quietly goes to the captain of the ship of this yacht. And he goes, hey man, if you're going to build a bridge here connecting Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg, where would you build this? And the captain's like, I would definitely, you have to build it from there to there. This is he knows everything about it. And so you got this old sea dog captain of a yacht giving Walter all the details and all the information, right? So this Elliot guy comes at one point. Hagen then basically goes to this to Elliot at one point and oh, I think you should build it from there to there. He just basically repeats everything this captain told him about this, where this bridge should be built.
Like a genius.
Yeah, and they're like, Walter, man, you know your shit, you know your stuff, and they build the Gandhi Bridge exactly where Hagen. I don't know if he was the main person that would say that. But Hagen was like, sure enough, they built this bridge. He goes, I felt like I was he goes, I'm not saying they did build it for what I said, but it's exactly where I told them they should build it. And he goes, and I totally ripped it off from the captain of this ship during this yacht party,
I love how honesty is in his
book.
Oh,
he's totally, he's like, it wasn't my idea, but he's like, it was just crazy because the next thing I know, a couple of years later, there's a bridge there. And I'm like, man, that's exactly where I did that. Was that for me? Did I, I ripped the idea off the captain of this ship. So it's just funny. That's how he just is welcome there, right? On this huge yacht party. And then so he talks to this guy, Elliot, who's building his own, spread. And this guy's like, well, I'll give you 20. By this point, Walter's, we talked about how he's the first club professional in Oakland Hills. By this point, Walter is totally off that reservation. He's you can see he's world traveling. He's going to Britain, Scotland. Now he's in Florida. This guy, it's cool that he says, there's Detroit influence through everything he does.
Right.
But at this point, he is a traveling guy that takes advantage of every kind of opportunity that comes in front of him. He's going from making money to the next tournament, and that wins tournaments, and then goes to the next money. So anyways, so this Elliot is like, well, I want to make you the main director of my golf course. I want you to just do whatever it is to help me sell memberships and do whatever it is. He's a superstar by this point. There's very few people, very, very few sports stars that are bigger than him at this point. So anyways, he, this Elliot, he says, so I asked Elliot, how much are you willing to pay me? And he says 25,000 for basically 4 months a year to do this. Right.
Yeah.
And so at this exact moment, there was another guy, whose name is Jack Taylor. And he comes up to Hagen at this basically exact point. Hagen knows he's in demand for this area because whatever golf club he goes to is going to be the spot in this area. So he goes to this other guy who's building this own property, and his name is Jack Taylor. And he goes to Jack Taylor and he says, I want 30,000, and because he has a benchmark for what he can charge. He wants 5,000 more than the other guy was going to pay him. And Jack Taylor's like, I don't know if we can do that. And he's like, okay, then I walk. It's literally because he knows he can walk away. He's got a $25,000 offer over here. Yeah. And so Jack Taylor goes, okay, I'll give it to you, So he does. And so Hagen's getting $30,000 for 4 months of the year working at this building. And so
this is 1920 money.
This is 1923 money. Yes. And so what Taylor's building, this is this fascinated me today. This is what took me an hour of my time today to just read into this today. And you can bring this. So what Jack Taylor was building was this hotel called the Rolyat Hotel. And I'll spell it out. Rolyat. Rolyat Hotel. And so I didn't know this until I kind of looked it up.
Rolyat. Yeah.
Rolyat. Have you heard of it?
I lived on Saran.
Yeah.
The next street over was Rolyat.
Holy, you've seen it?
No, I mean in Detroit, the east side of Detroit.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
And then there's Yolanda, and then there's it's Taylor spelled backwards.
I can't believe you nailed it. I had no idea. You're right.
Saran,
it is.
Saran is Norris spelled backwards.
Yeah, you're right.
And
you nailed it.
It's like my whole little subdivision there in Detroit, or a bunch of Civil War generals' names spelled backwards. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
We'd say, oh, it's a satanic neighborhood because all the names are spelled backwards.
That's crazy, man. Where's that
at? 7 in Van Dyke.
Oh, really? It's Detroit.
Yeah.
That's you just nailed it, because I was looking at it going, Raleigh at what does that mean? And I was like, actually,
I mean, just growing up, we always said Rolliat, but
Rolliat, okay, whatever. That sounds better. I like the sound of that better.
That's his east side.
Rolliat, yeah, I like that.
Polish kids in Detroit.
No, I like that. That sounds way better than Rolliat. Rolliat, I like that. So, anyways, but it is Taylor spelled backwards. Yeah. So the guy's name is Jack Taylor, and he's naming his place
the
Rolliat Hotel. It's his name spelled backwards. That's it. That's all he picked his name for his hotel. So this guy's a total character, obviously. Yeah. Right. He's a total character. And so he's like, okay, Walter, we'll give you $30,000, and he's like, we're building this hotel called the Rolliat Hotel. And the Hagen's like, I don't know if he was as quick as you were just there to pick it up, but I didn't pick it up at all until I actually read about him. Like, oh my God, that guy's named this hotel of his, what did he just call it, Taylor Hotel or whatever, he spelled his name backwards to put it out.
In purchasing power, that $30,000 today is over $500,000.
Yeah,
for 4 months.
For 4 months,
$500,000.
I actually have it written down in my notes. Taylor spelled backwards. Okay. You nailed it. That's awesome. Anyways. So we got the pictures of the Rolliat Hotel. Yeah. And look at this place. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty magnificent.
This is magnificent. I had like 10 different postcards from the 20s that I wanted to put up on this. If you have a chance, just go to ebay.com and just type in Rolliat Hotel. There are just the most coolest pictures, these old 20s postcards of this. And they're just like these. I mean, they're just so cool. There's a bunch of black and white photos on there people are trying to sell too. But they're just so this place in the background. If you're looking at so there's 3 pictures we have. They're all basically just to describe for the listeners at home. So it was designed with the idea of a Spanish feudal castle.
It looks it's a Spanish castle. Looks like a castle layout.
It is. It's designed in a Spanish castle. There's 10 palm trees at the entrance, and Walter Hagen himself brought those up from, I think it was wherever is the south. Is Fort Myers in the south? He brought them up from the down in the south, and nobody had ever grown palm trees up in this. They didn't think they could grow this far north.
Okay,
and so they planted the ones he brought, and they all grew. He said the ones that are there were the ones he brought up. So the ones that are there, if they're still there at the entranceway, Hagen planted those. He brought those up. that's because he was there when
what city is this in again?
This is insane. This is the city at the time was called it was called, what was it called? I have it here. It was called the I have it written down somewhere from here.
Yeah. But what area generally is it?
St. Petersburg.
Oh, it's okay. St. Petersburg.
Yeah, but he had it called it had a cool name. It was called something on the, what was it called? Could you look up Royal Hotel while I'm talking? So get it, because I had it. I did. Oh no, I got it right here actually. Yeah. I had it up here. It was called the it's called Pasadena on the Gulf.
Okay.
Now it's called Pasadena Estates.
Okay.
So they were trying to, Walter talks about it in the book. They were trying to name the city.
Right.
They had all these crazy names, and he was and then somebody was like, what about Pasadena on the Gulf? Like Pasadena, California.
Yeah.
But on the Gulf.
But on the Gulf.
Yeah. And so this, in the bottom postcard, these are just these sprawling Spanish castle looking photos. Mm-hmm. And in the background, you see the Gulf of Mexico with this massive beach that runs all the way up. And so this town, this city that they're founding out there, is this is the anchor of this area that they're building. This is Pasadena on the Gulf with this just ridiculous beach in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, open up to the Gulf of Mexico. So anyway, Hagen goes down there in 23 when they're just, this thing has not been built yet. And so he's down there. And so he just got married. This guy is, he goes down to Florida. First thing down there, he goes on this yacht party. And then while he's there, while they're building this thing, Jack Taylor give him and his wife this Spanish villa to live in.
Oh,
so he's in charge. They're building the golf course, so he's working with the architect to design this golf course. So his job is like he's giving lessons to, he's trying to set what they're trying to do is they're trying to lure other money people down there.
Sure.
So whenever somebody comes down there to check out what's going on, Hagen's trying to sell them like, memberships to this, to this club.
Yeah.
And then also like get him to buy real estate in the area so they can get, they can start getting businesses and stores and stuff, and just people living down there, to build a community. They're trying to lure people into their community. That's the idea. And so the entire time, so Hagen says in there, he says they lived in this Spanish villa with his new wife, Edna, and we hosted many parties.
Well, he's making $125,000 a month.
Now we're starting to get into Hagen's 1920s experience.
I'd throw a little party if I was making $125,000.
Yeah, a little party. He goes down there. The first thing that happens, he goes on a yacht party where he picks out the spot for a bridge, which they build a 4-mile length of span.
Yeah.
Okay, which is still there. Like I say, they ripped it down and did another one, but very nearby, like to update it. But it was there for like 50 years. This massive 4-mile bridge that he's like. I mean, imagine the Mackinac Bridge. You're like, oh, I was out in the yacht party with my friend, and I was like, yeah, they should really build a bridge there. And then like a month, a year later, you go there and there's a bridge right where he told him to build it. Like you'd be like, yeah, man, I got some pull around here.
Yeah.
You're talking to the guys who are building it and all. These are the guys with the yacht party. And then, of course, let's say he gets this $30,000, every 4-month gig at this Spanish feudal castle that's being built. And he gets a Spanish villa right on the beach with his new wife, Edna. And he's hosting many parties. He's hosting many parties, to host all these new people coming down there. This is roaring 20s, man.
Oh, yeah.
This is amazing. This is how you live a life, man. Like
Miami got nothing on Waltz in the 20s.
No, nothing. And so here's the thing. The other thing, while he's down there, he's also nearby all these Major League Baseball spring training sites.
Right.
So I got a quote real quick here. He's talking about golfing with all these different baseball players.
Oh my God.
He's got a segment where he's sitting there talking about golfing with Babe Ruth and how Babe's golf game. He's talking about this while he's down there.
Yeah.
So sometimes he's on the beach and doing, trying to sell people memberships and golfing with people, randoms that come into town. Sometimes he's throwing parties at the Spanish Villa on the beach with his new wife and all these celebrities and them coming in. Other days, he's just going down to the spring training, hanging out, watching, maybe playing catch a little bit with these players.
Right.
Other times, these players are not, as we're going to read in this quote, they're not even supposed to play golf because these baseball managers didn't want them to play golf.
Yeah.
And they're playing hooky with the team and running off with Walter Hagen to go play golf with these some of the biggest stars in baseball history. This is this real quick quote here. So manager Joe McCarthy of the New York Yankees put a taboo on golf during the training season, but a number of the fellows sneaked over for bootleg games. Babe Ruth and I played many rounds together with Babe Ruth. One thing I noticed peculiar to Babe's game and to that of most ball players was that for the length of time an average ball game consumes, Babe was a fine golfer. He could concentrate. After the hour and 50 minutes duration of a ball game, or about the 11th hole as golf is played, the Babe began to slop his shots away. He usually went out comfortably under 40. However, returning, meaning probably the back nine, he had to struggle to play a 15 handicap golf. Years later, in 1936, Billy Burke and I played with the Babe in the True Temper Open at Detroit, and his game still followed that pattern. Babe Ruth has always been touted as the top money player among all-star athletes, and I took a leaf out of his book.
Well, because Walter thought about baseball
totally
a little bit himself.
Yeah, he was into it. We're going to see. I got pictures of him in the spring training of the 35 Tigers. He was at their spring training.
That was when you put him in the Phillies uniform.
I know. I love that picture. It's perfect photoshopping too. So anyways, but when he's not at the beach or, hanging out, giving lessons to millionaires or, having parties at his Spanish villa, he's over at spring training, with Babe Ruth, golfing. And also, here's a few other names. This is the other thing. Look, you might recognize a couple of these names. I also played golf with Rube Marquardt, Jimmy Fox, Mickey Cochran, Cy Perkins, and numerous other famous ball players. Among the writers who wintered in Bel Air and nearby were the great sports reporter Grantland Rice, Dickie Martin, who had accompanied me on the first trip to England. So that Dickie Martin was with him. George Ade, Rex Beach, and Ring Lardner, founder of Ring Magazine, were frequently partners of mine. So these guys are like, he's golfing with the biggest sports stars, these are the biggest sports stars in the world. He's golfing with, like we mentioned there, Mickey Cochran's down there.
Yeah.
Hey, Mickey Cochran at that time was playing for the A's.
Right. Okay.
And so he's one. I mean, they've been to the A's, have been in the World Series. I think they went to the World Series their first time, right about this time. But anyways, yeah, he's golfing with Babe Ruth and Jimmy Fox, Mickey Cochran. Like this is what he's doing down there. This is look at this guy's lifestyle, right? So this isn't it, right? So this is not even all of it. So anyways, when this hotel finally opened in January 10th, 1925, the opening night for this hotel was, it says I read another story online about it. They said the opening night was full of celebrities. It doesn't really mention exactly who, but I've got a list. Let me just run down a few people. It just said these are just general people that are just famous guests in general.
Yeah.
What's funny is this comes off of Wikipedia. In baseball, George Herman, Babe Ruth, Jimmy Fox, Mickey Cochran, Rube Marquardt, Cy Perkins. The very first 5 guys that Hagen mentions right here that he played golf with. So what are the, so I mean, like, Walter Hagen in his book and Wikipedia, they got those are exactly the guys that he mentions in his book, right? And so it's like, yeah, those guys were there. Those guys were at this place, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
Walter Hagen. So some of the famous golfers, Walter Hagen, Chick Evans, Gene Sarazen, Jock Hutchinson, whose names come up numerous times. Joe Kirkwoods was there. Laurie Iton, Bob McDonald, Bobby Jones. They're down there. Socialites, entertainers, Cornelius Vanderbilt III, Daniel Guggenheim, Frida Hempel, Gally Kersey. Like there's
he's rolling with the big dogs.
He's rolling with the big dogs, right? These are out the thing. But check this out. For the opening night for this hotel, the champagne, the main fountain of the hotel was champagne. It wasn't water. The fountain was issuing champagne out of the fountain.
It was a cheese fountain with 6 different kind of cheese.
It wasn't the kind of fountain where you pour
mind.
the fountain and it kind of rolls down the bunch of glasses.
No,
this is a fountain.
A big
fountain where you're with that champagne. You just go dip. Could you imagine a party like this? This is the Roaring 20s, man.
Roaring.
This is seriously roaring. They're down in Florida on the Gulf Coast in a brand new Spanish feudal castle. And here's a description that
I'm dreaming
that Hagen had about this Rolliat Hotel. So this is his little quick quote I wrote down. Jack Taylor's Rolliat Hotel was the most magnificent and luxurious hostelry constructed in the booming 20s. Walter Hagen's own words. The most magnificent and luxurious hostelry constructed in the Roaring 20s. This was the number 1 spot that Hagen saw, and he saw a lot of them.
Right.
He saw a lot of places. He said this is the most magnificent. And when you see these pictures of it, you get the idea. So imagine this opening night, 1925, every celebrity star. And what's cool is it wasn't, that you can imagine, it wasn't like overdone. There wasn't a bunch of cameras there. There wasn't a bunch of snooper photographers there. This is out in their own little corner of the world. These are some of the most famous and wealthiest people on earth.
Yeah.
They've got a fountain pouring champagne out of it. They got this massive beach. They've all been probably buying a bunch of little properties nearby.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you want to hang out in the hotel or you want to go to Hagen's Spanish villa? Let's go chill over at Hagen's villa. You know what I mean? Like they've got the cool breeze rolling off, the moon slit sky. I mean, this is like,
get Daisy in the car. Let's go.
This is, I mean, they're disconnected from all civilization in the middle of their own little piece of the world. You know what I mean? Can you imagine how this was a special era? And this guy was at the dead center of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole world revolved around this, at least for Hagen's kind of mind here. But like, this is the Roaring 20s. Like, I have a whole different vision in my mind about the Roaring 20s now from just reading this.
Right.
And there's a whole, you can read it for yourself. I encourage anybody to read this book. It's tremendous. But like this is, and this is just the beginning of where we're going with this guy for the Roaring 20s. This is just the beginning, folks. If you're listening this far, like if you they're like, okay, that's the episode up, Jamie. How long was that? 20 minutes? No, this is just the beginning.
All right.
Okay. Fountain champagne. Okay, champagne fountain. Who cleans that?
Yeah.
You have to have a special maid stand or somebody that's there making sure that there's nobody, drooling in it or leaves getting in it or anything. Like somebody there, like there's somebody in this world that has told a story like in our past that said, my job at this opening night party was to to make sure the champagne fountain stayed running smooth all night. Like that was somebody's job that evening.
Oh man.
So anyways, so that's our jumping off point, was that, this is where Hagen's kind of, so from 23 to about 26 is when Hagen's kind of involved with all this.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so this is what he's doing for these. So like, because now we're gonna jump from there. We're gonna go to the British Open in 1923. Mm-hmm. But the reason was cool to mention these like sort of 3 years with this Florida thing is because he's gonna be going from his little home base here in Florida, for his little 4-month gig in Florida. Now he's got armed with $30,000 worth of ammunition to go wherever the hell else he wants to go. And we're gonna see here in a second where else he does go. But he's got ammunition to go to whatever golf tournament he wants to go to, win it, go to the next, win it. He can do whatever the heck he wants to do. And as we're going to see here, it's just incredible. So in 1923, Hagen, he's just on a tear. He wins the North and South Open, which is in America. He won the Texas Open. So it's 3 different Opens, the North, South, and the Texas Open. He finished 7th against Bobby Jones, who won the number 1 in the U.S. Open. He was first in the U.S. Open. Hagen finished 7th. Then he finished 2nd in the PGA Championship. So but anyway, so in 23 he goes out to Troon, Scotland for the 1923 British Open to see if he can win his 2nd straight, Open. He won his first in the previous year, and so there's this huge dramatic finish. And Hagen loses by 1 shot, but it's this huge, like, dramatic finish where like it's like goes all the way down to literally the last stroke, and he loses to a Brit named Arthur Havers. Okay, so anyways, so this is where it's kind of interesting for this. So I quote about the reason I mentioned it was close. It was this like super thrilling, like he walks you through the whole thing, but it gets all the way down to like the last stroke, and the whole, like, everybody is hanging on like the last strokes here for this. I think it was like he missed a shot, and that's what gave Havers the championship. Anyways, so it's like this huge thing, and everybody's like super excited. Hagen and Arthur Havers are like the toast of the town, kind of like this. It's almost like it's in a similar situation to some of these other events we've covered, where it's just everybody in the area is just glued to it, and then like everybody that's involved with the final day are just heroes in that. So anyways, so this is where Hagen talks about the event afterwards. So he says, our American boys stopping at a hotel bordering the golf course had expected to pick up their daily mail at the back door of the clubhouse. We're back to these clubhouses and the shenanigans that the Brits are playing. They're the last holdouts from letting pros come in, right? So that's where he's talking about. So he's coming from living this opulent lifestyle, the best superstar golfer in the world.
And you get changed over there in the hot dog shack.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, that's where he's at. That's what's basically going to happen. Yeah. So he says, our American boys stopping at a hotel bordering the golf course had expected to pick up their daily mail at the back door of the clubhouse. They just want to pick up their mail. That's it. They're not going there to use their showers and eat off their fine china dining room. They're just there to pick up their mail in the back door. However, we were advised that all mail would be sent to the golf shop, so we, as the official stated, would not find it necessary to go to the clubhouse. So they sent it to the golf shop just so that the American golfers wouldn't find it necessary to have to go anywhere near the clubhouse.
Right.
So we sent it over there because we don't want you in the vicinity of it, right? And so this did not sit well with us at all. That's what Hagen says. After my shot missed and Arthur Havers became the new British Open champion, the secretary of the club came out on the green and insisted that I come into the clubhouse with Havers for the presentation of the trophy. So all of a sudden, there's all this excitement. Hagen and Havers had this huge thing. Hey, Hagen, you know what? We'll make an exception. You can come on in, right? Yeah. He says, I walked up the path with them while the British bobbies held back the tremendous crowd following us. There's this huge crowd that wants to see what's going on. At the doorway, I stopped and turned to the enthusiastic gallery. I'm sorry I didn't win, I told them. I've been asked to come into the clubhouse with Arthur Havers for the presentation. I stopped for a moment and considered my words carefully. Then, at no time have we Americans been admitted to the clubhouse, I continued, not even to pick up our mail. At this particular time, I'd like to thank you all for the many courtesies you've extended to us, and I'd like to invite all of you to come over to the pub where we've been so welcome, so that all the boys can meet you and thank you personally. If the committee likes, they can present the trophy to the new champion over there. I turned and walked away with all the thousands in the gallery following me to the pub, leaving only the committee and Arthur Havers at the clubhouse. He took the crowd with him. And they were standing there by themselves with their trophy, and nobody cared.
And their $375 check.
Their $375, Arthur Havers' $375 check, the trophy, and nobody caring whatsoever. They'd rather go hang out with second place Hagen at the pub. They all went over and followed Hagen. So this right here, we've already alluded to this story before in an article we read at the beginning of Hagen. But this is a huge moment.
Right.
This is a huge moment. This is Hagen. Hagen is like the biggest sports baller on earth.
Yeah.
And they're not letting him pick up their mail. He finally has it. Like, he finally realizes his power at this moment. I mean, I realize he knows he's had it for a while. This isn't like he's been a church mouse not saying anything ever. That's not true either. But it was it's like, he's like, you know what? Guess what? I'm not going in there, and I'm taking all your people with me. Right. Like, that's who I am. And that's what, like, that's the most badass statement, dude. He's like, guess what? We're from America. Over in America, the crowds, like, we are in the clubhouses. We are the clubhouses. Like, here, we can't even pick up our mail. So this is like, I'm done with this crap. I'm done with it, and I'm not taking it anymore. And he didn't. And so that's what's so great. So as we're going to find out the sort of impact that has. Because again, this is in the same, like, so he goes back to America, and he goes back to Florida, and he's living his thing, and he's doing his Spanish villa parties, and so he's doing this thing. And so so he's doing all this, and so he comes back. This is where it gets really good. It's 1924. He comes back to challenge for the British Open again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one takes place in June 26th, 27th at the Royal Liverpool Links at Hoylake. And so in this, what's kind of interesting about this is he talks about this guy. He said there was a guy named Mr. John Ball that requested that he partnered with Hagen for this particular, for this British Open, 1924 British Open.
Yeah.
And Hagen was like, this was like one of the biggest honors I ever had, was this guy asking me. In this Mr. John Ball, this guy was 63 years old. This guy was playing in his final British Open. This guy had the first British Open this guy played in. He was 15 years old as an amateur, and he played in the 1876 British Open.
Okay.
So this guy is a legend out there. I don't think he was a really big name. I don't know. I didn't really look him up too much, but I don't think he was like a huge name as far as like the world of, the biggest names in the history of golf
and longevity wise.
Yes. But within these golfing circles, like this guy was an absolute legend. Like this guy's talking to you about British. Oh, I remember British Open. This guy won the British Open in 1890. Like he's like, oh, I remember that 1890 Open, like this is the guy that is like, this guy is like the connection to the roots of, golf and the Open and all this. Like this guy was just, and so Hagen was like, man, this is like this guy's final tournament. Hagen actually says in there, like, this was like the biggest honor that this guy requested to play with me.
Yeah.
And Hagen's a superstar. He's the number one guy probably, in the world, basically. So that's just kind of cool, is that he plays with this guy, John Ball. He rolls around with him the whole show for the whole tournament. So here's I've got a pretty good quote for how this Open finishes.
Okay.
And like I say, we're just wait till after he does this whole thing, it's gonna it's even more interesting than this. So, so we got 134 and 135. So anyways, so it all came down to this final hole. Okay. And he's going against this guy, Ernest Whitcomb, who is like basically like they're just kind of neck and neck. But at this point, going to the last hole, he's like one shot ahead. He's just basically got to preserve this lead, and he's gonna finish up to win his second Open. So at the 18th, I was confident I had victory in the palm of my hand, for here was a short par 4 hole with the wind at my back. I got a long tee shot, some 300 yards, leaving me a short 7-iron shot for my second. Again, a series of traps crossed the front of the green. However, they didn't seem to be too troublesome considering the shortness of the shot I had to make. I played my second shot too boldly and went past the flag to the back edge of the green. Here I was on this fast green, on the back edge at that, and I needed to get down in 2. I putted down, sloping away, and left myself 5 feet short. Had I hit it a tiny bit harder, I would have rolled almost to the hole, but a semicircular ridge held my ball and left me with a most difficult putt. With such a fast green, I knew my stroke must be delicate. I looked over both sides of the hole. There was a slim chance of a slight roll as it went down a little incline towards the hole. I studied it carefully once more. I decided there was a double roll down the first 2 feet of the putt to the right, a slight roll to the left, the last 2 feet. So it's like rolling right and then it's rolling left. Like it's like this putt course. I stood and set myself with one thing uppermost in mind. I must hit the ball delicately. And in a situation like this, delicacy is difficult due to the extreme nervous tension one is under. But then I had a second thought, which helped greatly in my executing the shot correctly and in not becoming over anxious to see where the ball was going. Should I miss, I'd only need to stay over another day to beat Whitcomb in the playoff at the British Championship. If I hold, I became the British Open champion. So he's like, kind of like, if I do miss, then I'm still got a chance to win it because we're going to tie and we'll go into the extra round. Yeah. But so that's what kind of steadied him a little bit. So while 10,000 people held their breath, I stroked the ball gently but firmly. It righted the last turn, straightened out, and headed for home. I threw my putter into the air and never saw the ball or putter again. But I sure saw that British Open trophy. My wife rushed up and kissed me. London Bobbies in their white helmets quickly surrounded us to give what protection they could from the thousands of gallery fans seeking to shake my hand and roaring congratulations into my ears. Some of them lifted Mrs. Hagen and me to their shoulders and carried us off the green. Nice. The committee asked Mrs. Hagen and me to come into the clubhouse for a champagne toast. She was the first woman ever to cross the threshold of the Royal Liverpool Links clubhouse. I suggested that McDonald Smith, who was an English and American, like sort of like dual citizenship. I suggested that McDonald Smith, who had finished in a tie for third, come along with us, and they graciously included him. An American golfer goes right in with them. They're like, oh, absolutely. We want McDonald Smith to come in with us. Mac on the wagon, but sportsmanlike, touched his lips to the rim of the champagne glass, but did not drink. I received another great ovation from the gallery when we mounted the platform to receive the trophy and other prizes. The crowd sang for He's a Jolly Good Fellow, accompanied by a fellow playing a cornet. So there, all of a sudden, next British Open. Oh, absolutely. You guys are more. McDonald Smith, bring him in. Bring it. Your wife. Oh, first woman ever to sit across the doorway. Bring her on in. You see the impact he's had in just 1 year. Now the party's in the clubhouse and they're all having a good time because Hagen's there. He's just brought he just changed the entire landscape in one, with one step. Every other tournament we've talked about him over in Britain, he was heading to sleep in the barn in France. They're trying to set him in the barn in France. Every British Open, they wouldn't even let him even look at the clubhouse. And now there's the first woman ever. He says she's the first woman ever to cross this threshold at there. You see what I'm saying? Like that's the impact that this guy is having. He's changing everything out there, right? So anyways, so that's this, the door is finally open. That's like the last door to fall for as far as the respectability of professionals getting into these, into the old world clubhouse, where it was just amateurs allowed in there and the mercenary pros were not allowed. That idea is gone after this. He's never going to be talking about this again. So anyways, so now's where it's just so he just won the British Open. Now's where it gets interesting.
Let's go to Disneyland. Oh no,
kind of not that, but something else. So anyway, so he wins this British Open, right? And so of course, as he did in the previous British Open, he gives his check to his caddy, this guy named Jimmy Anderson, who's a British guy. And then he takes off from there. Him and his wife, they go to the French Open in Versailles. It's in Versailles, one of the most magnificent places. There's a nearby golf course in Versailles, France, for the French Open. He finishes second at the French Open. He doesn't win the French Open, right? But who cares? You're in Versailles after you just won the British Open, right? And then, but 3 days later, Hagen goes to Belgium and wins the Belgian Open. Okay. And Jimmy Anderson came with him from France to Belgium, and he gave Anderson his check from the Belgian Open, right? So he's just going from place to place. And then, oh, by the way, that same month, while they go back to France, and what's in France at that moment? Oh, the 1924 Summer Olympics in Paris. Oh, wow. They're at the Summer Olympics in Paris, the 8th Olympiad. They're in Paris for the Olympics. Oh, they just only go to wins the British Open. He plays at Versailles French Open. Then he goes to the Belgian Open, wins that, goes to the 8th Olympiad in Paris. I wonder if he had good seats there.
Yeah, probably.
You think he had good seats?
Probably had decent
seats. He had good seats? You think he was meeting any of the stars over there and that it kind of any good hangout spots? He actually says in there, after several weeks of fun at the famous resorts and attendance at the Olympic Games in Paris, Mrs. Hagen and I headed for home. So there's this like, and then where are they going? They're going, I don't know, Florida, back to Florida, to the Spanish Villa, to the Spanish Villa again for another 4 months and collecting $30,000 and, you know, hanging out with, trying to sell, get people to come down there and, you know, get golfing with baseball players, you know, the superstars. You know, I forgot. Yeah, he wrapped up his 1924 season in September by winning his second PGA championship.
Oh yeah,
and then this would be and that was in French Lick, Indiana. And the second PGA championship, this would be the first of 4 straight PGA championships in a row for him.
Okay,
so it's just like, how many more things?
Yeah,
how many more? Like what? This is, you know, that's pretty much all. That's the end. Then, and so closes 1924 Walter Hagen.
Yeah,
so you're like, this is a guy going living the life of. I mean, this shows you right here the kind of lifestyle this guy is living.
Yeah,
this is how you live, man. Like, like, you know, those phrases like, what would Jesus do? Like, how would Walter Hagen live? Like, am I living like Hagen? Like, can I live like Hagen? Like a bracelet to remind you every day to, like, you know, like, what would the Hague do?
Yeah.
God.
You know, what was that cartoon? You sent a cartoon.
Oh yeah, you'll put that up on the screen if you got that. This is a great. I love this illustration. Yeah, I almost forgot about this. This is if for those that can't look at it, what it is, it's Hagen dressed as a knight in armor.
Yeah.
And there's it's in the background. There's a golfer, and it says a
pro golfer.
What does it say on the golfer's head?
Yeah,
it says pro golfer, golf pro. Yeah,
golf pro.
And he's kind of like shabbily dressed.
Yeah.
And Hagen's like opening a door.
The front door.
Front door, and underneath, right by his foot, it says front door.
Yeah.
And he is actually welcoming this pro golfer into. This was in like several different newspapers and magazines. Like even in his day, they recognize what he was doing for golf.
Okay.
Like this is an illustration that just it conceptualizes what he was, you know, what he was about, like what he was doing.
He's got a fancy king's English robe
exactly
at the tip of his sword.
It says snobbery on the robe, yeah.
And so he's defeated snobbery.
Defeated snobbery, and he's welcoming the pro golfer into the front door, and he's dressed in a knight's, you know, armor and that, and he's got a sword, and he's actually, you know, beckoning this guy come through the front door. And so like this, this is not just some, you know, this is a legitimate thing that he did. He opened the front door for all the professional golfers to come in.
Yeah.
That's what he did. And this is like, that's how, you know, this guy, you know, like we hear, that's why I'm just so glad we're doing this whole segment on him, because this is a guy who is, he's not a forgotten. So people have heard the name Walter Hagen, but does the modern world realize just how big he was? Does the modern world, do we remember how big of a superstar this guy was?
Yeah.
We're rambling through, like, at some point we're going to get to the end of this, and we're going to do a list of all of his championship victories. And it's just going to be like 6 times this and that, 5 times this and that, 6 times, you know, 4 times straight, 50, you know, 11 straight, you know, national open titles. It's just going to be
Palmer and, you know,
it's just going to be rambling through it, and
together to match this.
Yeah, we're going to get to a point where we're just going to be rambling through like all these things. And I think that might be one of the problems, you know, when you're dealing with somebody that's had this level of success, is that, you know, you look at all these titles, and then you kind of hyper focus on those titles, and then you start to compare it to, like, well, how many did Jack Nicklaus win, and how many did Tiger win? Oh, he was like 3rd back to Tiger, you know, whatever.
Sure.
And then you get kind of focused on that rather than like just what he did in the times he was doing it. And, like, you know, he was the one setting the benchmark for all others to follow.
Yes.
Like he was this, you know, like people are like, oh, well, this, you know, Aaron Judge is, you know, hit his 60th home run, you know, with 60, you know, they're these people are going to break 60, 61. And the reason baseball 61 home runs is such a special number is because Babe Ruth set that benchmark. You know what I mean? If you can outdo what Ruth did, then that's amazing. Even that, like, but Ruth was the one that did it first. He set that benchmark, and then all those to follow are like chasing that benchmark, and they may surpass it.
Sure, yeah.
But that benchmark stands as like the hurdle that one must overcome in order to get to that next level of just, you know, of where you can even be recognized, you know, in that upper echelon of your sport. And that's what Hagen did.
Yeah.
You know, this guy, I mean, it's just like, but I just love this because it actually kind of took you into his life. And it goes, I think it goes a great deal in explaining why the cover of his book said, "I don't want to be a millionaire. I just wanted to live like one."
Right.
Because Hagen even says in there, he's like, by this point, I still had money left over from Jesse Livermore, but I was also adding to it with my $30,000 every 4 months. Like he's actually talking about but because he's talking about how, his resource drain, like he's spending this money, like he's throwing these parties. These people aren't getting, he is spending this money, and he's like, but he's actually saying, like, by this point, I still had some of this money left, and I was still going to have some of this money left, like he's actually talking about like it's a ticking clock, like that money's about to be gone. And
those champagne fountains don't fill themselves.
Yeah, like who's to say that Hagen didn't have some role? Like, I got the champagne fountain, I got the champagne for your fountain or something. Like maybe it was his idea. Like, hey, I think you should. I mean, like, would you be that surprised if Hagen himself went to Jack Taylor and goes, dude, you need a champagne fountain. Totally need a champagne fountain. And he's like, you know what, Hagen, that's a great idea. And he's like, I'll even go halves on it with you, man. You're paying me a great salary. I'll even throw some money into it, Yeah, I mean, like, but I love this because, again, I've always thought of the Roaring 20s, and I always think of, like, you say, like the Hollywood and then the New York. But this is the Florida and the Hagen experience in the 20s. Yeah. And I just like this is the kind of thing where they're, like a movie would just be like this couple of years. I just think that this would be just like, the setting, the backdrop for a Hagen movie. I think this couple of years right here, which there's so many different things that you could involve in like a Hagen story movie for this. But I think that this would be such an incredible backdrop to begin that point of reference for people. Because he even, at one point he's golfing against Bobby Jones, which is a major, we're going to find out in an upcoming episode, that's a major component of his story. He's golfing against Gene Sarazen in this huge 1923 match. He's going to the Olympics. I mean, you could take a tour around the entire 1920s sporting world, golfing with Babe Ruth and all this. So I just think just reading it and just looking at it, just going, this guy knew how to live, man. Yeah. This guy knew how to live. And like, now I want to go find a Spanish villa and have some parties, dude. Totally. Totally.
We're going to do that next time. We're going to find ourselves a Spanish village. We're going to record live there next time.
That would be awesome. So you want to surprise me and like on a show, Jamie? Be like, we got a Spanish villa we're broadcasting from, and we're having a party after. I'm like, yes.
All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out, checking it out, the video or the audio. Wherever you're at, like, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate all of those. The website is DetroitCityOfChampions.com, wearingfunny.com for the merch. And all the links are in the description, as always. Charles, as always, thanks for all the hard work you do putting into this. And
I love it, man. I enjoy the show. I love doing these shows with you, Jamie.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
it takes me half my day to get ready for it, but it's worth it. I love doing the show.
Heck yeah. All right, next time. We'll see y'all next time. It's Detroit, City of Champions.